I think I'm now going to ask Wendy Alcock, who is from Incredible Edible Barnet, if she would like to join us.
Hello, I'm here.
Yes. Oh, good. There you are. Okay, then. So I just wanted, you are from a group that actually grows food in public spaces. So we're very pleased to welcome you and have you talk about what it is that you do. Could you just tell me very briefly about how Incredible Edible started, and then in more detail about how you started Incredible Edible Barnet and why you started that?
I can. So, Incredible Edible was started by two wonderful women, and I've met one of them. She's a force for nature. I think Finlow's just mentioned his TED Talk. So Pam Warhorse, who is one of the two who started Incredible Edible Todmorden, has also done a TED Talk, which I can highly recommend. They started, I think it was 2008, because Pam was wanting to get people together to talk about food. And I think we, as British people, particularly because we have been so long, we've been moving into cities, we are so disconnected from where our food has come from. Bringing people together around food was the beginnings of their thought process, because it's great, isn't it? We get around a table, we chat. When you're in a community garden, you work with other people and you learn from other people. So doing something with others was their beginnings. I think there are now around 100 around the UK and 500 around the world. But the idea is, as you say, to grow in a public place. And I think one of their wonderful sayings is to ask for forgiveness, not permission. So for people to get out and go and do something in your local community. So maybe as we have our conversation, I can inspire some more gardens to develop in Enfield. But I live in Barnet, so I'm just over the borough from Enfield, and I know a couple of people on the call because I come into Enfield for a brilliant gardening group called North London Organic Gardeners. Give them a bit of a big up. We're obviously organic growers, and we at Incredible Edible Barnet are growing organically because we grow with the planet and biodiversity in mind. So biodiversity hasn't come up as much as it could have done, actually. It's very closely linked to where our food has come from, isn't it? So it's about climate and biodiversity, and it can have an impact and a cause and consequence on both. So I moved into Barnet, just the other side of Cockfosters, in 2009, and I got a back garden, and what am I going to do with this? I didn't have a clue what to do. So I started playing around, growing some food, and I'm very environmental, so I wanted to reduce my own personal impact. And I think that's what it all comes to, is when you realize where your food is coming from, and when you have that light bulb moment about what the impact of food is, anything that you can do about it is a positive. So I had access to a little bit of land. I was lucky to have that in my back garden. So I started to try and grow some food, and quite quickly realised I didn't know what I was doing. So I went on a couple of courses, but none of it was in Barnet. I travelled to the wonderful Organic Lee to do a lot of my training in Waltham Forest, and I did some volunteering in other parts of London, but nothing was in Barnet. So in 2016, I decided to start a community garden. It was either that or an allotment, and I decided to investigate the community garden route. And I just put up some signs locally and some online and physical, and invited people to come to a local pub. We had a chat, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I wanted to get some ideas from people, but the landlady in the pub overheard our conversation, and she said, "I've got a bit of land in the car park." And 2 weeks later, we had a spade in the ground, and we were digging and weeding and growing food in the pub car park. A year later, I had grand plans at the beginning to start one space every year, but I was working 4 days a week at the time, so quite quickly realised that wasn't that realistic. And I did start a second space, which I'm still running outside a church in New Barnet, just by meeting the minister at a food bank meeting. It was actually a food bank meeting, and that's now my main growing space. So I don't grow in the pub car park anymore, and I'm very focused on the power of small actions, where if we all do something, I think that people power is undervalued, and we can do a lot with our energy and our time and our money for where we buy our food, can make a big difference. Doesn't diminish what politicians need to do, and I'll probably come back to that at some point about how we need to engage with our politicians to do all the things that Finlo talked about.
Oh, she's frozen. Hi, Elaine, are you there?
That we can grow on. We just need to come together as small groups of people to get growing in those spaces.
Mm. So is there any sort of, the whole idea of a public thing is sort of, does anybody come along and sort of, I suppose, grow and help themselves to food? How does it work? Is it a,
Yeah. So I think if you are going to grow in a public place, which is the incredible edible mindset, then you might have some of your food taken. We actually have a sign on the wall saying, please pick me. You are welcome to pick this food. And for many years, nobody did because they felt like they hadn't contributed to the garden, so they didn't have the right to it. I think the pandemic effect helped as more people walked past us and found our space. And we just had more conversations with people, and people became interested in growing their own food. We started to get more people picking, and we're quite mindful of growing foods that people. There's various things that we try and do at Incredible Edible Bonnet. Foods that people will recognise. So the strawberries and the raspberries go down very well, and beans
mm,
and tomatoes, things like that. But we also focus on perennial plants. So it's not just an annual allotment style, things in rows, bare soil in winter. There's always something happening in the garden all year round. And so that's to make it look as nice as it can. Like, at the moment, things are just starting to come to life, but the food space is not its best looking in February. July is the best time to visit any food garden. So get visiting things in July, and things are much nicer. Um,
mm,
but it's about inviting people to come and pick that food and show them what seasonality is. I think we all humans want humans in developed countries want food all year round. We don't need strawberries in
mm,
February. We don't
mm,
need purple
mm,
sprouting broccoli in September. It's okay to eat food seasonally and to understand what that looks like and to change your diet throughout the year, which is what our ancestors have done. And many people in other countries still do. So it's about rebuilding those connections to um, what we should be eating. And as many people have talked about, a lot of that is about reducing our reliance on meat, using our land more wisely to grow more pulses. I'm a big beans fan. Anyone who knows me is I'm constantly going on about beans, and it's really great to hear the bean love that's come out in the last few years. The Food Foundation have got a wonderful wonderful campaign called "Bang in Some Beans." So there's really quite a lot of noise around it at the moment, and it's nice. It gives you a bit more positivity in what can feel like quite a gloomy subject that you can see, like Finlo was talking about. There's a load of problems on the horizon, and when you've had that light bulb moment and you can see it, it's pretty scary to think about how we're going to feed ourselves as a world. But we do have the power to do something about it, and we individually have responsibility to do what we can.
yeah. And we're doing something about it now, which I think is really
Talking
nice,
about it is one of the
because you
key
hear all
things.
these sorts
Yeah,
of things, the policies, which are so important, and we do have to keep in touch with our MPs. But to think that, and try and influence policy, but to think that we can actually do something on the ground ourselves to produce food is, I think, is really quite inspiring, actually, and what we need to do as well. Thank you very much. That was very helpful. Thank
okay.
you.
Do you want me to talk about some of the things that are happening in Enfield? Because I particularly
Oh,
want to do a big up to Enfield Veg Co.
do mention them. Yes,
Yeah,
certainly.
you are so lucky to have that in Enfield. They are one of 6 or 7 farms on our periphery, and as has been talked about, we have a lot of agricultural land on the around the edge of London. In Barnet, I don't know particularly what happens in Enfield, but in Barnet, most of the agricultural land is grazed by horses because it's owned by people who want to graze horses rather than to grow food. And Enfield Vegco have done things differently. So at 40 Hall Farm, I think the farm's been there for decades, hasn't it? But Enfield Vegco has been around for about 10 years, and that they are growing organically. So you know that you're sourcing high quality food. It's evolved over the years. Originally, when they started 10-ish years ago, you had to get a small, medium, or large bag, and you had to stick to it every week. But it's much more flexible now. So I think some people have found it to be, I really don't want to have leeks for 20 weeks in a row over winter. But if you do have leeks for 20 weeks in a row over winter, you figure out some wonderful things to do with those leeks, and you get much more creative with your produce. But they now have various different bag sizes. They've got 16 different pickup points in Enfield and in Barnet. You can swap some things, you can add on some things, and yeah, there's a real wide range of choice. So do have a look if you've not come across them before, and even if you have, they may have changed since you last used them. So take a look. And if you really don't think that it works for you, because they're based on the pickup scheme, so you have the 16 pickup boxes around the North London, and you go to that point to pick up a bag. But if you can't get there on the Wednesday or the Thursday morning, which just doesn't quite work for you, then we do have other organic veg boxes, so Abel and Cole, Riverford, and Odd Box. And if anyone else knows of any others, pop them in the chat, because it's always good to get recommendations, isn't it? Yeah. And it's supporting small organic farmers wherever they are on whatever they're doing. That is what we can do. If we're not able to grow all of our own food, which, let's face it, we're not. I think even if you have an allotment, you don't grow all of your own food, even all of your own fruit and veg. Then sourcing what you can organically, and or limiting the supply chain, like Finlo talked about, can make a real difference. And if we don't use Enfield Vegco, then we will lose it, and it will be a great loss to Enfield if that is the case.
It's very important to give them a shout out then, Wendy. Thank you very much indeed for that. Thank you.